Welcome, Claire, to the Dating Intentionally podcast. I am so excited to have you on. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm honestly so excited too. I love your page, love the podcast and everything that you're doing, and I'm really excited to chat and go back and forth. And it's like one of my favorite. It's like girl talk, super fun.
Yes. Yes. I got so many questions from my listeners, so we have a lot to get into. But I have a question for you first, and that is what are you being more intentional about lately, or what do you want to be more intentional about?
Gosh, I love that question. And in this moment, in fact, I was doing a little meditation this morning and being really intentional and conscious. What a lot of my work is around developing awareness, developing consciousness around our patterns. And so I got really intentional. I'll just give a little spill. I got really intentional yesterday, and I am a reinvention artist and I love relationship coaching, but I was just had this feeling of I'm getting this urge to be more expand what I'm offering. And I got really intentional last night around, okay, I want to work with brands. I'm just going to say it out loud. I want to work with brands. And I made a one Instagram story post yesterday. And just like that, the universe said, oh, here you go. And the brand messaged me and wants to work with me. So I think that if I were to chunk up and say, what am I being intentional about? Being seen, which is so important in a relationship.
Ooh,
Being seen.
yes. Good segue into that. But
Yeah.
also, I think so much of what we do in our relationships just applies to like everything in life. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's awesome.
I want to add to that my belief system really is that we're in relationship with everything. We're in relationship with our bodies, we're in relationship with people, we're in relationship with parents and siblings and friends, and we're in relationship with work, in relationship with money. I mean, it's all when I say I'm a relationship coach, yes, I like to talk about anxious attachment, but at the core of it, we're in relationship with everything around us all the time. So,
That's such a beautiful way to put it. And like, I think we forget that sometimes. I think we can take things that the other relationships we have with like not other humans, but other aspects of life for granted
oh
because
yeah.
yeah, and the work is endless.
It's endless. Like that's the congratulations. Like we get to keep growing and evolving. Like who wants to say the same? That sounds so boring to me.
Same. Well, speaking of that, we are here to grow and evolve and specifically focus on anxious attachment, which I know you talk about a lot. You've been through a whole journey yourself. And I think the one thing I was really curious to hear from you, because you focus on high achievers.
Hmm.
Why do you think high achievers struggle so much with anxiety and relationships?
Oh my gosh, like I can tell I'm talking about my favorite thing because I got goosebumps all over. So the why do I think, man, I mean, I have 1,000 of videos and a podcast on this, but if I were to say right now what feels really important to say is it's programming, conditioning. We are so conditioned. If you are a high achiever, if you're listening to this, to see success and achievement as the way to get love. It's a really great survival technique, right? So a lot of my clients are in medicine or they're corporate climbers, they have director level. One of my clients, and I've been working with her for like a year and a half. She's like, oh yeah, like I've got like 13 million in my billing. I was like, what? Like that's so much money and currency to be passing through a person. Or they're entrepreneurs. They have either a really successful business or they have multiple businesses or they're in real estate. I have another client that's got like 26 stores and she's like 20 something years old. Like, what? How do you? It's incredible.
Wow.
But to build that level of success, whether it's in a corporation, in a business, in medicine, wherever it is, in order to achieve in the system that we exist in, I'll just say the United States, for example, it really behooves somebody, and more so in our family dynamic, we learn this that you had to get straight A's. I was so surprised to hear some of my clients have been in beauty pageants, like they were in teens. Yeah, seriously. So to achieve and to be on varsity and to be able to produce good grades, and whether that was explicit, meaning their parents, it was verbally told in their face, you need to be successful, this is what it takes, or this is the sneaky one, they had really supportive parents. Never would their parent ever put pressure on them, they just internalized it. Either way, whether it was explicitly told you need to be successful and these are the rules, or it was implied, we self punish or self-critical around that. We internalize that we need to be successful. That translates that muscle. So if you, let's just talk about medicine, for example, if you are in the medical field or you're a doctor and it's 4 years of residency, 8 if you specialize, something like that, then you have all of that repetition in achieving and to be, if I'm just thinking about ER specialties or any kind of specialty, like if you
Mhm.
are just drilled down that you have to be the best in the class and you have to keep the patient alive, you develop a certain type of way of being. So this is kind of like the principle that I really believe. We develop a way of being in the world, and that gets really hard to shift gears when it comes to relationship. We see relationship, if we're in relationship with our work, our family relationships are based off of transaction, and we have to produce or to be productive or to achieve in order to get love, then that translates to our romantic relationship. Like, why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it do
Yeah.
that? Right? If we got
Right.
all these
It's like how you do
repetitions.
one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with aphorisms, which is, don't break it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. These kinds of sayings. But there is a kernel of truth in that, right? Like if we do one thing and we get really good at it, then of course we're going to take that into our relationship, our romantic relationship, which kind of leads into maybe some self sabotage. This is kind of where my favorite
Mhm.
person is to work with, where they know they're with a good person. They trigger themselves, quite honestly. That's what happens. But yeah, that's my brief
Okay.
little dive into that.
Yeah. I definitely relate as a high achiever too, as an entrepreneur. I definitely relate to what you're saying.
Mhm.
It's like how I show up in my business and I think I had the second type of parent didn't ever pressure me to be a certain thing or achieve something specific, but I definitely internalize it because they are very successful and like there's like a
Yeah.
standard in the house
Mhm.
that's
That's
unspoken maybe. So I
exactly.
I definitely relate to that. So I have a lot of listeners who have
Mhm.
anxious attachment and are aware of this. And by the way, like I have a whole episode on the different styles, so we don't have to like break down what
Mhm.
it means. But I would love to hear from you, just like maybe because it can be hard to recognize it. Like we can learn about it, but it's like, how do I know if I really have this? So, what are some ways that you know that anxious attachment shows up in early dating and in relationships? Like, what are the behaviors?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of so funny because I don't really talk about this a lot. A lot of times my clients are very self-aware. They're very much like, "Oh, they could go to therapy." In fact, a lot of them are in therapy and they find me because a lot of times we can't think our way through our feelings. That's just not how it works. Believe me, I've tried. I have
What?
tried. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
I have.
so
I mean, you
frustrating.
too. I know.
No,
Like
I know,
we
I
just like
know.
understand the concept and then be healed, and that's not how the body works. But what I think is really interesting to say around what are the symptoms or how do you know, I have a confession around my belief system around attachment styles, is that it's really nice to know a diagnosis. I mean, I'm actually going to say something that's a little triggering, so I'm going to give a little trigger warning around eating and how we perceive food. So if
Okay,
that doesn't feel safe for somebody, or that is just not part of their journey right now, then I'm going to recommend to skip forward at least two
fast
or three
forward.
minutes. Yeah. So three,
Okay.
two, one. So I, in the past, have struggled with an eating disorder. And also, like, I grew up in like the 90s. Like, who didn't? Like, I feel
Yep.
like who doesn't have like some kind of disordered way of perceiving food? Anyway, if you don't, love that. So I will definitely say that in that relationship where I was really struggling with eating, I went to therapy. I mean, I've been in therapy since I was 16 years old. And I remember just sitting in therapy and I already read the DSM-5 and I could just name all of the things that I thought was wrong with me. And this is typically when women come to work with me, they've gone to therapy. They've gone through the list of all the things that they know as anxious attachment. And what I found in my healing, which has completely changed my life, is that we just can't intellectualize our way through healing. And it's, if we think about mind, body, spirit, it's only a third. Your mind is only a third. And that's why we feel like we keep hitting the same patterns again. So I say this with a word of caution, because when we get really attached to what are my symptoms, we become symptom oriented, meaning, well, I'm an
Mm,
overthinker. Then you start to say, well, I just overthink. And then it becomes a bit of identity. So before I go into some symptoms, I want to just say that this is not you. This is not who you are. These are maladaptive thoughts and feelings and behaviors that are showing up. And when we look at anxious attachment triggers, we look at our symptoms, that is the invitation to look deeper. So I say
Mhm.
that because somebody I just know, I know the type of girly that kind of gets wrapped up into this. Your symptoms aren't who you are. So when I go back to when I was in therapy for that thing, I got really symptom oriented. I really wanted to understand it. And that was definitely not how I healed it, just like respectfully. And also, I
Noted.
am pro therapy and pro counseling. I highly recommend it. Um, I'm a coach. Coaching is different than counseling and therapy. I never will proclaim to be a counselor and therapist. I am a coach first and foremost. So, just words of caution before we go over into symptoms. Does that sound good? That was like a
Right.
long winded
Yes, perfect.
way to go around.
Yeah, no
So
worries.
I will speak specifically to my client that I love working with, which is the symptoms that they experience. So the first thing that I think is criteria, I believe for me with these more high achieving girlies is, and this is kind of like where people can go on the fork of the road, where you know you're with a good person. This often happens. And if you look at any kind of comments on my TikTok or something like that, like, well, they did this, or like, I'm not talking about those people. Like if a certain person is behaving a certain way and they're triggering you, well, first of all, triggers are congratulations. It's invitation to look at the situation and what's going on. So I'm specifically going to talk to the person that you know that they're a good person. And Taylor Swift, hi, I'm the drama. It's me. Like you kind of know you're triggering yourself. Okay.
Okay,
So
got it.
the people that are like, I don't know if they're a good person and like they're like love you so much, like I love you, that's a different conversation that I want to talk about today.
Okay.
So you know you're triggering yourself because they are good, because there's also a part in your brain right now that the person that's listening that's like, well, they could do more. Of course they could do more, right? Like nobody's perfect, but you know that they're a good person, they could do more. Maybe there's also a piece of, I'm just thinking about what sets people off. You overthink, right? So something small happens. And so they walk in the door. I used to say this about my husband. I'm like, you're putting on you put your sandals on angry. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, I just put
Oh
on my
my
sandals.
god.
I'm like, you breathe,
Oh my god.
you sneezed mad. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it can get weird, man. It can get weird. So really over analyzing very minor things is usually a sign. Again, they're typically really wonderful and really reassuring. And I say this too because if I were to talk to a client and really get honest with them around what is actually happening, there hasn't been a time, truthfully, that I've talked to a client where they think something is going on and I go through a line of questioning with them and they're like, "Oh, actually you're right."
I have that conversation a lot too, and it's like, "Oh, yeah." It does
Yeah.
it can be tough to see it when you're in it, when you're really I feel like the experience is you're clouded by your version of what's going on, the mad sneeze, the angry putting on the sandals. It's, like, hard to kind of break out of that when it's like it's almost like the opposite of rose-colored glasses. Like, it's hard to
Yes.
take those glasses off.
It's
Yeah,
perspective. It's how you were conditioned to think. So if you grew up in an
right.
environment where you walked on eggshells and there was maybe some instability or there wasn't dependability, then yes, you were programmed to look at every little interaction, to feel the vibes, to anticipate something bad happening. So then you take that into your relationship, which is also a lot of times for my clients, they feel like logically in their brain, they can think it through, but they cannot fight the wave of anxiety and this like really that's what it feels like, at least for me, this deep kind of, I use this analogy of when we try to outthink our anxiety or our overthinking, it's like, and you don't get to
Mhm.
the root of it, the root of what's making you anxious, then it's like pushing a tidal wave with paper towels. Like you just, like your thoughts are just these little paper towels trying to fight logically what's happening. But then you feel this wave of, oh, you have to think out the scenario. You are analyzing, okay, left sandal went on pretty angry, right not so much, but still like left sandal's pretty angry. And it feels like you can't even help it. And that's a lot of times where
Mhm.
people come and they're like, they don't want to push a good person away because they can kind of recognize that, wow, this is a cycle, whether they're noticing it in the current relationship or for me, I didn't really awaken to these cycles well, I was into my 30s. Like I just
Right.
20s were rough. I had zero awareness around I'm just going to be truthful. I had no awarenesses around my patterns, around my subconscious. I just thought what I saw was what I saw.
That's like when you kinda realize, and I say this with love, that, like, you were the toxic one the whole
Oh yeah.
time.
Mhm. Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know, I say,
So
like,
rough.
lowercase toxic, like, not capital T toxic,
Yeah,
just like yeah, like, you're not
whisper
actually
toxic
deep down
toxic.
toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I definitely relate to that, and well, what about in dating? I mean, I think, like, again, you work with a lot of people in relationships, but I think my audience, like, they're in the early dating phase, so this can add a layer, an even more challenging layer because when you're getting to know someone, you don't necessarily have the foundations of trust and communication because you just met them.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, when it comes to anxiety in early dating, what do you think? What are the ways that that shows up? Because like you're not watching them put their sandals on, when
Yeah.
you're like in early dating
Totally, yeah, you're
necessarily.
not in that phase where, like, maybe sleepovers aren't happening a lot, or maybe you're
Yes.
just yeah.
Yeah.
So, I just wanna say that I have actually do have a lot of my clients are typically in long-term relationships, but I also have clients that are dating as well, and they've just
Okay.
really become self-aware around their anxiety, and a lot of times if they are dating, they don't wanna mess it up with the next person. They don't want to they're really committed to figuring their ish out now so that when they do land that person and not only that, like there's also a filtration system, I feel that when you have that lens, like he's talked about rose colored glasses, like if you have a conditioning to be overthinking or to overanalyze or to overreact, all the overs, then you tend to be dating is also really man, it's a volatile ground because you're opening the door to intimacy when you enter dating. So when I look at somebody who's dating and first of all, it's like, how are you filtering them out? You have to be able to discern and I teach about this, but like what is your gut and what is overthinking and how can you discern? And then a lot of times this goes really deep. It's not like, oh, just take this pill and like your intuition will be turned on. The reality is the conditioning of how you perceive people, how you perceive attention, how you perceive trust. All of that is going to show up for the good or the not so great when it comes to relationship. It's going to be a reflection. You might have heard this saying out there in the relationship sphere or the spiritual sphere, like, "Oh, we're all mirrors, we're all reflections." And while I
I think about
do
that a lot. Yeah.
yeah, while I do wholeheartedly believe in that, and I definitely think that's, like, for me, a spiritual truth, um, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow when we're dating and when we're in this process of, judging people, and that is kind of necessary. Like, our ego is there to help us to stay safe, and what I feel when we have what we call anxious attachment is that mechanism to stay safe that our ego has created, it gets overactive. It's kind of like that smoke alarm. Like the
Mm.
toast went in there for 10 seconds longer and it's not even like black smoke. It's like the fire alarm is going off and it's like, chill, bro. I
Yeah.
just made some tea. Like you need to turn off.
Yeah, yeah.
But and you know how annoying it is and like how it jolts your system? That's literally to me in dating specifically when you're waiting for them to text back or it's been 12 hours and like whatever when you have these deeper patterns it is our your ego and your system those maladaptive behaviors and thinking and feeling will kick on just like that overactive smoke alarm. They're trying to tell you
Mhm.
something and we have to discern okay like maybe the smoke alarm needs to move like closer to the door, my god. All
Oh,
right,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
maybe we
Yeah.
just turn the volume down a little bit on it. Does that
Right.
resonate?
So Yes, and, literally that was my next question. It was and you already touched on it, which is just like and this is the most common question I got from my audience when I asked what they wanna hear from you, is how do you tell between your intuition and your anxiety? I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I have many trainings on this, but I'll give you the tea on it right now that's gonna help you, and I just know we want answers right away. We want answers, we want it now.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. I mean, like, you want food, you microwave it, you can DoorDash it, like, you press a button and it happens, and unfortunately, the reality is with our journeys and healing and our spirituality and connection and all these pieces that are really important. You're not, I love you so much, y'all. Okay. I love you. I'm going to hold your hand, but listening to one podcast and 10 seconds of somebody talking about what needs to happen is not going to cut it. This is like me trying to explain to you what a roller coaster feels like. You just got to
Mm,
ride the roller coaster. You know what I mean? So, or
yeah.
it's like trying to describe to somebody how to build a house. Like, oh my gosh. So I just say that because I know the girlies that ask that are intellectualizers. You're going to save this podcast. You're going to save God knows how many liked or saved posts on social
Like
media that you
Instagram
have.
posts, yeah.
Right. So I'm just going to say this as a forewarning. This is not going to save you. Like you actually need a process and we need support in order to really inoculate this. But one of the key signs that you are looking at intuition versus your anxiety would be anxiety is very it's very short-lived, meaning and like some of you are like, well, it feels like forever. Well, of course, suffering can make time go very slow. It's a perception, right? um they haven't texted in 12 hours, 12 days. Like, I get it. Like, I get it can feel really intense. But anxiety it's a pattern. It can feel really intense in that moment, and for can be 12 hours, could be 12 days where you're overthinking, you're freaking out about it. But intuition is actually very in the moment, meaning, and it may not be in the moment that they didn't text back, but your intuition, you actually are talking to it all the time. And believe it or not, it's talking to you. There are some of you right now that be like, my intuition doesn't lie. I'm like, or is that just a pattern? Is that just your
Mhm.
brain has been conditioned to look for what's not working? And guess what? If you look for it, you will find it. So, love
Right.
you, but like, are you looking for the red Honda? Because you go outside right now and look for red Hondas, you're gonna get hit by one. Like, like you're just gonna, not literally, don't get
Okay.
hit by a car, but like you're
Yeah.
gonna see 15 of them, red
Yeah, of
Hondas.
course, of course.
So I just say that because like my intuition hasn't lied. I'm like, well, like, I don't know, because there's more to that context and who you are and what you're conditioned to look at. But again, intuition is felt. It's a felt sense in the moment. Anxiety is a cycle. It can and it really is an emotional wave versus intuition is a felt thing.
So, okay, I guess what I'm hearing or what I'm kinda getting you can feel both at the same time.
Of course you can.
Because
Of course.
what's clicking for me as you're talking is, like, how I felt in my relationship when my intuition knew it was the wrong relationship while I experienced anxiety, and I was trying
Uh-huh.
to, again, more address the anxiety, but not but, like, kind of override the intuition and, like,
Uh-huh.
kinda get my intuition on board with me trying to solve the anxiety part. Like, obviously, I'm not in that relationship anymore. My intuition ultimately won. I didn't realize, like, you could really have both at the same time.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, look at even the conditioning, the societal conditioning. It's either black or white. It's one or the other.
Mhm.
It's right or left. And when in reality, is so much of what I teach is discernment and to be able to
Right.
understand that multiple things can be true. You can have your intuition talking and you can overthink what it's talking about. So it's less about like, well, if I can just master my intuition, then I'll be safe. Well, first of all, that's just like, that is an illusion, right? The illusion that if I can just get them to text me back, I'll be safe. Or I can just get them to be my boyfriend, I'll be safe. I can just get them to move in with me, I'll be safe. That is like, there is like, and maybe this might amplify somebody's anxiety or not, but that's not my responsibility. But the reality is all relationships end. All relationships
Yep.
end.
All relationships
Whether
end.
whether somebody moves to a different state, somebody passes, there's a breakup. If you can accept that, if you can accept that all relationships do end, and that I'm not saying you don't have to be sad about it. In fact, that is like something to be tender
It's
about.
sad, yeah.
Right. But we don't want to be ruled and controlled by the fear that that ends. That's not a way to live. Does that make sense? Like, so when
Oh, yeah, no, I think
we
about that all the time. I talk about that a lot, just basically everything's temporary, and
everything
it is
is,
hard to
yeah.
wrap our hearts and minds around that, but
Yeah.
it is true that, even, I'm married, and getting into my marriage, throughout the whole relationship, just the work of just accepting that it's gonna end, and it
Yeah.
might not work out till the end, of our
Yes.
lives,
Yes.
and that I don't and I had to get to a point where I don't need it to work out. Even now as a married person, I don't
Yeah.
need it to work out, but it is really tough to get there.
Yeah, and it does take work, and I mean, again, I think we're both speaking to, we would love to snap our fingers and like and things to be figured out. And well, if I just learn these things and okay, she said it's felt in the body. Again, this is where you're trying to intellectualize a roller coaster. Like you have to create
Mhm.
discernment. And the unfortunate thing for high achievers is we don't like it to be messy. We don't like to be imperfect because perfection got us grades, perfection got us on teams, perfection, and perfection can look for different for everyone, got us acceptance and love from our parents and our siblings. I mean, like there's so many things that are tied into that. So in so
Yeah.
many levels, you are conditioned to not listen to your intuition as a high achiever. So yeah, and one of the things I'm really freaking good at is helping people to build discernment between what is
Mhm.
their anxiety and what is their intuition, and really getting the tangible skill sets and the actual steps to decipher that. Because again, if you've spent years in that high achiever mode, then yeah, I use this analogy of like if I did 40 years of bicep curls, okay, like I don't care if they're even just like body weight, 40 years of how big is my bicep going to be?
I
Insane.
mean,
It's going to
probably
be
pretty
like to
big.
my ears,
Yeah.
like Popeye, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, so the opposite muscle of biceps is triceps, but like you got chicken wing down here. Like, it's not even
Right.
right. So, if you are used to overthinking and your anxious attachment, all of that is like flexing at any given time, then you have to learn how to get the other muscles stronger. And so, we can just take the fitness mentality into that. If you this is why most people and I have a fitness background. For years, I was a strength coach. I was the only head strength and conditioning coach for Denver Public Schools for about 5 years. I was a Lululemon
Oh,
ambassador.
wow.
Like, I know fitness. The reason people, this would be so insane. People would come like to me for whatever, and they'd say, "Well, I know you teach yoga, but I got to stretch first." And my brain would like go, "Huh? Like, what are you talking about? Like, come to yoga to do the yoga." But they felt so inadequate. They didn't want to look stupid. They didn't want to look
Oh, yeah, yeah,
messy.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times this is why high achievers, it's such a mental battle to get support, because it's like, well, you're supposed to do it on your own and pick yourself up by the bootstraps. All these systemic, really effed up ways of thinking that show up in a personal level that you need to figure out on your own, that you don't listen to your body. You can't really discern all of those things because you're just doing the same thing again and again.
Yeah. I mean, you hit on so many good points, and I really love the way you explained why it is so hard. It's like it sounds easy. It's like your gut, but no, actually, you might not if
You might
you've been
not.
conditioned this way. If
Totally.
Yeah, you might not. So I want to talk about something you talk a lot about on your Instagram page, which is creating safety and kind of
Mhm.
just safety in general, because that is a key component to, I think, healing. It has been for me. And what do you think? How does safety come into play?
Yeah. So safety for me, gosh, I hear that word and I'm like, oh, like I melt into that. Of like we all want to feel just safe, and I just am tapping into the person that I'm honored to be in your earbuds right now around like you deserve to feel safe. And the thing that we have to really accept, and I'm going to tell the truth right now. It's like definitely one of the things that
You're
is a
dropping so
pillar
many
of
truth
mine.
bombs on this, I love it.
Yeah, it's because that's the only way we heal. If we keep lying to ourselves, if we are dishonest, if we can't look at ourselves and look at reality, pain and suffering is the unacceptance of reality. That's actually what it is. So the more you can
Mm,
be real and be truthful, that will set you free. I mean, we've heard that before, right? So when I look at what would be the first kind of thing, it would be to be honest with yourself and to be honest with, wow, this is maybe something that is a pattern for me. And I'll just like call myself out. Like it took me, I did not want to be honest with myself. I went my whole 20s dating, okay, this guy will make me feel safe. Like he will make more money and he'll make me feel financially safe and he'll make me feel emotionally safe. And I literally monkey barred my little butt through my 20s from wonderful person to, okay person to like wonderful like, and I was a train wreck, man. I was breaking hearts left and right because I really and I had my fair share too, believe me. But what I recognized was that I was seeking safety externally. I was seeking safety from somebody else. And that is also not to say that we shouldn't feel safe with somebody and that, like, obviously, this is the obvious physical safety. Like, please talk to somebody, if like a professional, if you don't feel physically safe. Just forewarning. But
yeah.
really, what I came down to, and I had to learn through brimstone and fire and blood and tears around, okay, actually safety is, it's collaborative, but it's also my sole responsibility. Just mic drop. It is
Okay.
actually
Yes.
your
Yeah.
sacred responsibility to create, nurture, cherish, build, evolve your own sense of internal safety. And when we look at, for example, overreactive, we overthink, overanalyze it. The key word here is over, right? We need
Over,
to
right.
be able to think. We need to be able to be logical. It's a good tool, right? But when we are in excess of that, that is problematic, right? I'll say all of these are reactions, right? Could we agree that these are all reactions
Yes.
to that? So the thing about reactivity is you need something external. Jump scare, like you see this video on TikTok and like they're watching a TV and they're like, whoa, like something jumps out at you. Like, of course, you're
Right, and you're reacting.
to
Yeah.
react, right? But if you look up the definition of reaction, there is something external that is usually creating a reaction, like a chemical reaction, right? The stable, I am not a chemist. I like to pretend like I know things, but like there's a stable component and then you add another element to it and then it either reacts or it doesn't. Baking soda and vinegar, right?
Right.
Volcano. I also believe that dating and relationship is the alchemy of the soul. That these
Mm,
triggers, these reactions are telling you something about the base. But when we add something unstable to an unstable base, hello, of course it's going to be like Mount Vesuvius, like it's going to blow up. So
yeah.
what I like to teach people is, and I'm not the dating coach that's going to be like, oh yeah, like manipulate and say this to get them to, I just want to
No.
puke.
Ugh,
No,
no.
so gross.
Never.
But then it doesn't work because you are playing at something you cannot control. At the end of the day, we are all sovereign beings. We all have autonomy. If you are of the Christian tradition, then Jesus died on the cross for us to choose to have free will. Okay, I was brought up Catholic, not so much anymore, but that's that any kind of perspective or philosophy you look at, it's like we are sovereign beings, we have choice, we have autonomy. So I like to orient us to what the only thing that you're in charge of. I don't say control because we're not supposed to control our emotions. We're supposed to be in relationship with our emotions, but we are in
Mm,
charge. So, one of the first steps, again, like the first one is to be truthful. It's like if
right.
you go to 12 step, you have to say, my name is Claire. I have a drinking problem. I mean, that kind of
Right.
system
Just be
works.
honest with yourself.
You have to be
Just
honest,
yep.
right? You have to say it out loud. You have to be
It always
aware,
starts with awareness.
right? I mean, like
Yes.
we say that, but man, it is truly like, I'm so glad that I embrace this as like an everyday thing, that these deeper psychological subconscious patterns are always at play. And so when we can start to be aware of them, then we get to start to, I had to say chip away because really, if you can clearly identify them, the magic can happen so fast, like literally mind blowing. But awareness, we have to be truthful, we have to be self responsible. So that goes back to the reaction. If we are dictating our thoughts, feelings, behaviors based on somebody else, that is a lose lose. You will lose
Mhm.
because you are managing your happiness with somebody else at the dashboard. Like, I don't think so. One of the
Yeah.
things that got really clear for me, and I don't even think I mentioned this, but you're married, I'm married. I met my husband later in life. I was saying like 70 years old. No, I met him like in my mid 30s, which for some of us out there, an old, dusted, busted way of thinking is, I'm so withered and like my ovaries are just dead. And like, no, that is so not like, I'm so glad I met him in my mid 30s because I was effed up. I would not
In
be
your words,
ready.
you were a train wreck.
I was a train wreck, okay? It was crazy town. I am anxiously attached. He's avoidant. We have a podcast on this, but the basic notes are I got really clear. I would overthink. He wouldn't text. And he was a middle school math teacher and he would be really dedicated. And he worked in Boulder with a bunch of women who all happened to not like men, which was like, but I would still have these insecurities. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like he's so hot. And like my husband is hot. I love him. And I would have all these overthinking and just doubt. And he had his own thing and I had mine, but I would try to really shove down my emotions and like shove down my triggers, which PS does not
Mhm.
work.
Like, just be cool,
Be
just
be
be
cool. Yeah,
chill,
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
be chill. Like, okay, good luck with that. Like white knuckling your relationship. Like that doesn't work
Yep,
well.
yep.
But we had a big blowout. And the blowout looked something like he wanted to like literally get in his car and like drive away and like abandon me. Like, and I sat there by the door crying, and something in that moment really clicked, and something just kept clicking and falling into place where I just got really vulnerable with him. So that the last thing I'll say was vulnerability. I said, you're going to leave like everybody else leaves. And the lightning bolt hit for both of us. And in that moment I was like, well, if I can tell him this and be totally self-revealing and not from a place of I want you to stay, so I'm going to tell you the thing that I think is going to manipulate you into staying. That was not the energy of how I was
No.
saying it. I was revealing my pain to him, and not from a word vomit like you make it better and now you have to change. What I
Yeah, you
recognized was
deal
that
with it.
you
Yeah,
deal with it. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
going to just throw this bomb at you, this grenade at you, and now you get to catch it.
You
Like that.
catch it,
Yeah,
and now you
that
gotta
was
snuff it out. Yeah.
yeah, that was
No.
not the vibe. The vibe was, "Oh, I am feeling sad." And this is so interesting because in that moment, I had been doing some personal development, but like it was such a moment of clarity and awareness and spirit. I'll just say that. So that was a real turning point around, oh my gosh, okay, vulnerability, and I have to tell the truth and all these pieces. And we have had ups and downs even since then. I mean, this year will be
Of course.
9 years. But when I
Wow.
look at all the major pillars of how we have taken these two opposite attachment styles, which PS, I think people that have avoidant attachment styles, and especially if you're anxious and you're like, you got burned once or at five, I don't care how many times you got burned. Blame is not part of healing. How
Thank
many
you for
mic
saying
drops is
that.
that? Blame. So
Yeah.
if you want to blame somebody else, good luck. Good luck on your healing journey because blame is toxic AF. That is not going to help you. Generalizing and blaming a whole group of people when their pain just shows up differently than your pain. That's like another mic drop.
Yeah.
Their pain is just
Yep.
expressed differently than how we express it. And I just have zero tolerance for people that don't have the capacity to see the other perspective around that. So I'm just gonna like draw the line. But for us, it was really healing these two. They tend to be pitted against each other attachment styles into an earned, secure relationship. Those are definitely the things that I would say the awareness, the truth, the self responsibility, the vulnerability. Like you have to have those things and be willing. Another thing is I believe highly in messy aligned action. messy
Yep.
aligned action, and we cannot do it alone.
Yep. Yeah, I think I mean, the messiness factor is
Oh, yeah.
definitely something that's very hard to deal with. Like you were saying, if you expect perfection of yourself, if you've gone through life being a perfectionist or whatever. I'm not a perfectionist, but I also know I have a standard. like
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
I think my standard for what I want to do is probably higher than but it's still for me not perfect. It's like everyone's level is different.
Yes,
But
totally.
I think, yeah, but the messiness is tough. I think in my experience, like, just to give people some hope or just some it's not all bad. Like, the longer you do it, the more comfortable you are
Oh,
with
yeah.
messiness, and the more you realize that messiness is actually good. It means progress, and, like, on the other side of the messiness are these, moments of just absolute crystal clarity of like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I all this work did actually work," and I have some very distinct moments where the work I had done with my therapist for years, all of a sudden just fell into place. And I was like, oh my God, this is what my therapist meant. Like this is happening
Yes.
right now. And it was still hard, but it's I just want to give you guys hope. It does get easier as you
Yeah.
get more used to the discomfort, which you talk a lot about on your page too,
Mhm.
sitting in discomfort. I really appreciate all the mic drop things you're saying because who else is saying them? I mean, there are
I
not many
mean,
people who are willing
yeah.
to be so real, and, I think it's all said with love and encouragement, right?
It's all said with love, and the other piece that I think you kind of touched on is around messiness is that if hello so high achievers we don't like messy, right? It's if it's like not A plus and it's trash, that's where it starts, this black and white thinking. It's like I didn't get the
Mm,
team, I am a failure, right? Like a lot of that kind of absolute thinking is kind of embedded into us anyway. So you even look at some of the aesthetic, like messiness is like, ew, gross. Y'all, relationships are messy.
can I just tell you, how long it took me to accept that my conversations in my relationship will not go like the scripts in the book? You know,
Yeah.
all the relationship books, here's how to play this
Yeah.
conversation out with your partner, and they, have
Oh,
an
yeah.
example, and it's, this, beautiful, clean, back and forth, nope, it took me so long to accept
Yeah.
that.
And I mean, whether you used, I mean, I did the same thing. Like attached, I think is like the book. Like that was like a
Yeah.
standard back in the day. But like, okay, if I say this and they'll say this, or you just script it out in your head, like, okay. And so this is again with the practice, and like you need accountability, and you need to understand what more so. I say this a lot, but it's not what you say. It's not what you say. It's who you are being when you say it. That's it. You can
Mm,
say I can say, "Talia, you look gorgeous." Okay? That's
thank
one
you.
way of saying it. "Talia, you look gorgeous." Different
Different.
feeling, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the words didn't change, but who are you being? The first one I dropped in, connected. Wow, this reflection. What like, even when we first popped on, I was like, I just admire what you've built. Like that's a genuine, like
You immediately
heartfelt,
yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And then the other one is like a little judgy, a little, whatever,
Yeah.
like a little like how do you I don't know why.
You're right. No, it that's a really, really good question to think about. And before we wrap up, I just wanna you said the safety, what
Mhm.
this concept, this idea of building safety does start with awareness. So what is something listeners can do today to take a small, tiny step towards that self-awareness that's needed to build safety and to heal?
Yeah, they're not gonna like this. But that's
Oh, no?
okay.
Okay,
We're
great.
not we're not
Hit us.
supposed to like everything that makes it's like taking medicine, right? Like, I
Yeah.
can't eat cherry flavored anything because I fricking hate Robitussin, like, all that yucky medicine stuff. But the medicine is going to be get off your phone. Get off your phone, get into
Oh
some
my god, I love it.
sunshine, like, get real. Like, get into the present moment around what's around you. Even if you're listening to me on your hot girl walk right now, which I know my people, like, I know y'all are probably doing that. Take after this ends, like, take out your earbuds, look at the sky, not directly into the sun, like, look at the sunshine. Like, I had to gotta just forewarn everybody, like, feel the breeze on your face, like, get out and be real and get connected to presence. That if you can tap into that, and that's just like one piece of homework. When you can tap into the present moment, that is the automatic connection to safety.
So when you're spiraling because they haven't texted you back, put the phone down,
Yes.
look outside your window, look around, feel your feet on the ground, you know, feel the temperature of the air,
Mhm.
whatever it is, drop into the presence. It will I mean, I have to do this too. It's hard, but it is a really tangible thing that people can do like right now to start to feel more safe, and I love
100%.
that.
Yeah, get
Yeah.
outside, feel the breeze, get some sun on your face, leave the phone inside, and automatically for some of you, you're like, okay, yeah, like, I'm not gonna do that." Well, then you really need it. That's actually your sign that
The
you're
more resistance you have to this idea, the more
Yes,
you need
totally. The
it.
more resistance you have, the more it's a sign that you need to do
Yeah.
it, and I have this perspective with my phone, like, I tell it what to do, it doesn't tell me what to do. I'm the boss, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
safety. So if you're like, "I can't put the phone down, what if
Amazing.
it texts back?" Like, you are outsourcing your safety.
Thank you so much for saying all this, for all this real talk. Claire, you've been awesome. I know you have a heart out. So, where can we get more of you?
Yeah, so you can find me on TikTok or on Instagram at Be That Healing Girl and on the podcast. So, one
I love your podcast.
oh my god, you're amazing. Thank you. It's true. I love it too.
It's really good. No, it's really good.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're such an angel. And yeah, I actually have a episode that just dropped around triggers. So I go a bit more into like more give a tool around how you can really treat the triggers. And yeah, you can check me out on Spotify, Apple, all the places.
Great. We'll link that episode in the show notes as well as your Instagram and everything. So, thank you again for sharing all of your wisdom and all of this Robitussin with us. It'll
I
be
love
good in
it.
the end.
Thank you for having
All
me.
right.